Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we are looking at the Mirasan Defender Ion Mine, otherwise known as the Imperial Ion Defense Mine. Um, this comes out of the Kraken's Rebel Threat Dossier. Uh, we have an old throwback here. The Mirasan's Defender Ion mines are designed to blockade worlds that the Empire wants to cut off from trade and supplies. The mines use cloak, reavers, and scatter particle beams to remain nearly invisible to starships. With the ship, or when a ship is within 10 kilometers of a mine, the mine emits a powerful ion attack upon the ship, neutralizing the vessel. Um, Stuck in space, the crippled craft must wait until Imperial forces arrive to board it. Now, we did see something like this. Now, during Rebels, I believe it was they had a similar mind. So I'm going to say that Dave Filoni had grabbed out of this, which is not the first time he has grabbed stuff actually out of this book. Um, we do have a little look, and I don't remember the episode of Rebels that they had. Actually, no, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it wasn't Rebels. I think it was actually out of the Clone Wars, because Anakin had to get uh, an ingredient from a plant that was only on the one world to save Padme. So I'm sorry, it was actually from the Clone Wars. Okay. Um, we had actually grabbed this. So that means that it wasn't just Dave Filoni, but George Lucas himself. So it's interesting that they together had grabbed out of this book this mine for that entire idea. Additional, when the Imperials blockade a planet, they scatter these defenders throughout the near space orbit of a world. It is nearly impossible to get through the blockade without encountering at least one of the mines. Of course, there are times when a run through blockade has tried and uh, early in the war, and the Empire blockaded the world of Brenson because of its political views. Brenson is a low tech mining world that depended upon food and medical supplies from other planets in exchange for minerals. When their trade was cut off by the people, they became ill, and the blockade began to weaken the resolve to work against the Empire. I was put in charge of the force to get supplies to the world below, both food and military, and then lead to a strike against the world's imperial base. We got through the blockade and send men out in vacuum suits and jetpacks. They're small enough to avoid detection. It was a very slow process, but they cleared the path. Okay, so there is a way to get around this. So essentially, you're putting people out in spacesuits to try and just, it's if you have a small fighter or whatever, it's enough metal there. Kind of like we have stop and go lights. They'll actually have a plate underneath that will detect the amount of metal. People that actually ride motorcycles might understand this because there was somebody that drove motorcycles that told me about it. Um, when you drive over with a motorcycle, there's not enough metal like in a car. It sometimes will not actually signal on that plate to say, hey, we need to turn the light signal. Similar property with this. So we actually have something that for most starships, it will actually trigger it and say, hey, we need to attack it and keep it from getting to the planet. But if it's a small enough vessel or somebody in a spacesuit or whatever, there's not enough metal there for it to detect you, and you can actually go through the process of actually getting these out of here. Um, it's always nice when they create things like this, and I believe they use this in a book somewhere. I'm not exactly certain where, um, but they use this in a novel, And of course, West End Games, working with the writers and working with George Lucas and Lucasfilm Limited, uh, had come up with these ideas to try and keep fleshing things out. Um, how that all worked, I cannot tell you. You know, it was only a couple years ago I had really learned to understand how much West End Games really was involved with a lot of the back stuff that happened for the novels and all that stuff. I never really understood. You know, I just play role playing games and video games and have fun. Uh, this isn't my level of expertise. I enjoy playing this. I enjoy bringing all this stuff to you, but how these corporations and all that work together, that's way out of my scope. Uh, I just keep it for my own silliness, the enjoyment of the game, the universe that was created by George Lucas and subsequently by the different writers that we have. Um, and I always say Timothy Zahn and Michael Stockpole, and there's a lot of others out there. And I know the last series that I had listened to, because I cheated, I got it on audio. Um, I want to say one of them was Cindy Golden. Um, I could be wrong. And it was like three or four writers. They wrote, it was a 9 book series. So it was like three of them, I think, maybe four. But they worked together to get the story out. Um, Very good story. Um, but, it's just an amazement how we can go with Star Wars and we can have a good, long vision of where things should go. Unlike when we have Disney Wars and it seems everything's all hodgepodge together. So I hope at some point we do return back to Star Wars instead of Disney Wars. But even if it's under the Disney license, if we can get back to Star Wars, that would be wonderful. Not saying that there's not bits and pieces that people can't take out of there and say, hey, let's add it in there. I'm not centering on some of the other stuff there, but that's all different discussions. This is the mine, a very interesting piece of technology. Um, of course, they give us a little schematic. So we actually have a sensor rod, our ion converter, particle beam scatter projector, so that way it kind of hides it from some of the other ships. We have an altitude differential sensor, so it can keep itself placed where it needs to be, and our actual ion cannon itself. We do have a little extra write up. When the ship first approaches a planet guarded by an ion mine, the pilot needs an easy mechanical roll to detect the mines. So, as a game master, when you throw it in there, make sure that they're doing a roll for this. To avoid detection, the pilot makes a starship piloting maneuver action while each mine makes a scanning roll. The mines may not combine actions to detect the ship. Any mine which rolls higher than the maneuver detects the ship and begins firing once per round. Mines will ignore anything less than 4 meters in diameter. So there's our little thing. Anything smaller than 4 meters in diameter is safe. So small escape pods and all that might be fine to crash land onto the planet, keep people safe that way. Um, this is where, whenever I bring up our sensor packet, we have our passive scan, active scan, and all that. And then we have that die code behind that. That's the computer's actual helping die code to try and help you understand where everything is. Um, this is where all those kind of come in. Now, typically when I'm doing Star Wars, we don't really worry a lot about the sensors. I've done it a little bit more with the newer group because we have some of the younger kids. Um, my best friend's son is in there, and son-in-law, and it's some of the things that they're asking for more of this than what we had ever really gone into. So it changes how I have to kind of run games than how we had done it before. And when we're looking at ships, and I know I've talked about this for ship crewing, um, if you have people that are doing different jobs, it gives them something to do. So now here's an idea to throw this out there once in a while. to say that maybe there's one or two of these remaining out at a planet because it was blockaded at one time or whatever. And like I said, there's just one or two of them. They're unfortunate that they run into that one area that there's one or two of them out there. Um, so now you have someone that's watching the sensors, and it gives them something to do, something to look forward to, or maybe there's something else you want to throw out here. Wonderful ideas to throw in there, even if you're to grab this and put it into some other game. And that's something else to keep in mind. Whatever I come up with here doesn't mean you couldn't put it into your GURPS, Starfinder, Star Trek. Um, Maybe because I know Elite Dangerous has its own role playing game. Any of these other games that are all science fiction, there's always a possibility you could throw something like this out there. Um, Maybe even for um, like how I'm trying to bring like a GI Joe into a Star Wars. Maybe there's a ring of these around it, so nobody else really gets into the planet. But there was a ship that had crash land. Maybe it was an Imperial vessel, and they just don't want anyone else into there. And this will probably keep anything that they send up from getting up there too. Um, they'll be able to fly in an atmosphere, but maybe they won't be able to get out of the upper atmosphere into the lower orbit because now the ion mines will start to attack them. Um, there's many different reasons why you could have this thrown into a game, and I just threw out a couple ideas, or at least I think I threw out a couple ideas. But it's it's an interesting thing that they come up with to have in there, and then we get to share it and add it into our own collection for whatever we're playing. So with that, that's all we really have here for today. Hope you're having a wonderful day. We'll see you in the next video.